Let's get started. Again, welcome to another session of In the Lab with Dr. Tracy Gibbs, Chief Science Officer for LifeWise. And tonight we're going to be talking about ways to feed your brain and improve your game. I wish it did improve my basketball game. I've been playing lousy the last few weeks. Actually got kicked out of a little league I was with. Got sent back to the minors, I guess, if you would call it that. But either way, my basketball game has not improved by feeding my brain, let's put it this way. But my 2026 goals are all on spot. So tonight, we're going to be talking about the 4 main key ingredients that your brain loves and will serve as excellent brain food for you. But first and foremost, let's kind of ask ourselves, why? Why are cognitive enhancers booming right now in our industry? And by the way, they have not slowed down. Like what we call the nootropic industry, Nootropic, nootropic industry's been booming since about 2021. It could have been because of the post-COVID brain fog that people were experiencing, or it could just be that some really cool discoveries have been made since 2021 on cognitive enhancers in the nutraceutical industry. But I will tell you this. Back in 2021, the market growth was predicted at 9 or 10% annually, which is really high. Well, they've exceeded that. Since 2021 through 2024, the cognitive enhancing sector of the dietary supplement industry was a little less than just $10 million of a $22 billion industry. Now it's over $750 million in just 5 short years. Is that crazy or what? I mean, that's huge growth, and it's not slowing down. So, why? Could it be that it's just because we have an aging population? Baby boomers have always set the purchasing trends in any industry that relates to their age group. And right now, the baby boomers are just hitting 60 years old. And so you're seeing slogans like, 65 is the new 50 and things like that. And I hope so. I hope when I'm 65, I feel like I'm 50. But you have to recognize that the baby boomers are a powerful driving force behind the cognitive enhancement industry. Nobody wants to get Alzheimer's. Nobody wants to get dementia. So they're throwing a lot of money behind feeding their brains. I also believe personally that the self-help or self-improvement market, which has boomed the last 5 or 6 years because of digital online influencers who are out, the gurus, instead of having to go city to city doing meetings like they did in the 80s and 90s, they can now create a YouTube channel and get millions of followers. And it's easy to follow them. And therefore, the cognitive enhancement, because of the goal setting enhancement and the self-improvement enhancement movement, I think they are growing hand in hand. I know personally for me, it's, I have this strong desire to improve myself, to read more books, to learn more. I've got to read, like today alone, I spent, probably 2.5 hours reading different clinical studies on a myriad of topics. I was reading studies on some recent peptides. I was reading studies on some of the cognitive enhancers I was talking about tonight. But for me, that's like reading a good novel. I love breaking down the studies and seeing like how the study was formed, who sponsored it, what was their intent, because that's one way of cutting through marketing, science used as marketing versus real science. But when I need that extra boost or extra kick, I look to these 4 ingredients that I'm going to talk to you about tonight. Now, they're not the only ingredients out there, but they're the ones with the most scientific backing, and they're literally like pure food for your brain. So I'm going to start with the most common ingredient that literally is the same ingredient that your brain cells are mostly made out of, and that is alpha GPC. Alpha GPC is a form of choline that your body produces to feed the brain. And it's also found in foods like egg yolks. And yet, there's this huge anti-fat crave out there now where you have fat-free yogurt and you have, egg whites, literally just sold as egg whites with no yolk. And you have fat-free this and fat-free that. And because we're becoming a fat-free society, I believe that our cognitive issues are increasing. I mean, when you look at the stats of dementia and Alzheimer's, and you have to compare that with the number of senior citizens nowadays versus the number of senior citizens 20 years ago. But even if you take that number of senior citizens and it's grown at a rate of about 20 to 25% decade over decade, because again, of the baby boomers, the rates of Alzheimer's and dementia have more than doubled that growth rate, which means you're now 2 times more likely to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia than you were in the 1980s. And could it be that because we're all fat free now? Alpha GPC is a fat. Your brain needs fat. And alpha GPC is pure fat food. And unless you're eating pecans, walnuts, lots of them, egg yolks, lecithin from like sunflower seeds and things like that, you're just not going to get a lot of alpha GPC in your diet. I can eat pecans, but I'm not a walnut fan. I should. Walnuts are good for you, but I've just never developed a liking for them. I do raise my own chickens, so I get plenty of egg yolks. But in the end, I'm going to tell you where you can get these 4 supplements and actually find it in one amazing product. But I wanted to read a couple of studies. There was a study done on alpha GPC in Alzheimer's patients, and they had hold on, I almost said 80%, but it's 40. I read the 4 as an 8. A 42% improvement in their slowing down of the what they call the brain plaque now that causes Alzheimer's in patients who received early treatment. So that's kind of crazy. And by the way, the treatment was only 100 milligrams of alpha GPC per day. That's not very much. And yet at 100 milligrams per day, there was another study that showed people who use alpha GPC can also improve conditions of dementia and reduce their conditions of stroke or early onset, of stroke-like symptoms. So I think when you have a stroke, post-stroke symptoms, like the numbing of the face, the slurred speech, things like that. When taking 100 to 300 milligrams of alpha GPC per day, these post-stroke symptoms were reduced. That's pretty crazy. I think, again, it just goes to show you what feeding your brain can do for the rest of your body. Now, in many countries outside of the United States, alpha GPC is actually a drug. It's a drug that's prescribed simply because of the sheer amount of clinical evidence for cognitive enhancement that it has. In the United States, alpha GPC is sold as a dietary supplement, so we are free to buy it online without a prescription. So alpha GPC I would highly recommend as any part of a cognitive enhancement supplement program. Or I would say anybody like over age 45 should be taking 100 milligrams or so of alpha GPC daily, if possible. All right, ingredient number 2, phosphatidylserine. This is a really long word. Phospholipids are these beneficial fats that are found in food. And you have kind of 2 categories of phospholipids that are good for your brain. You have phosphatidylcholine and phosphatidylserine. Now, phosphatidylcholine is very similar to alpha GPC that I just spoke about. But I want to speak specifically on phosphatidylserine because that is also an ingredient that can be found in certain fatty foods, but it's mostly found, for example, in the non-hydrogenated rare vegetable seed oils. For example, avocado seed oil contains small amounts of phosphatidylserine. However, if you heat it or cook it, you've destroyed the beneficial properties of it. And as we know, everybody cooks with avocado seed oil. I mean, if you buy it, you cook with it. Now, if you used it in a salad dressing or used it raw, you would get the benefit. But as soon as you cook with it, you've created a polyunsaturated fat, which is bad for you because when heated, it turns into a trans fatty acid. You destroy the beneficial properties of that. So, but it is found in trace amounts of avocados, higher amounts in the avocado seed oil, but trace amounts in the actual avocado. So it can be found in your diet, but again, in small quantities. So I believe supplementing with it is super important. Phosphatidylserine, by the way, is found not just in every brain cell, the coating of your brain cell. It's what coats every single cell of your body. Phosphatidylserine is one of those fats that works as the cell protector and cell pliability maintenance ingredient. So all of our cells in our body have to stay soft and pliable. And when they become hard, we know that as poikilocytosis. I know that's, again, another word that you don't need to remember, but it's the hardening of the cells. And why that's bad is you guys have all heard of like hardened arterial walls, right? When the cellular walls of your arteries become hard, we call that arteriosclerosis. And that is mainly caused by free radical damage because of overoxidation, meaning that fatty, soft, and pliable layer of your cells is now disintegrated or degraded, and your cells can no longer be flexible. And it makes nutrients difficult to pass through the cell wall when they're not soft and pliable. So not only is phosphatidylserine important for your brain, it's important literally for every single cell of your body. Let me read a study. Phosphatidylserine was used for Alzheimer's disease and normal age-related decline in memory and thinking skills in many EU countries. Due to its effectiveness, it is a prescription there as well. It is also used for athletics performance, ADHD, and many other studies purported to be beneficial for cognitive enhancement functions. And again, once again, in the United States, phosphatidylserine is sold as a dietary supplement, so it's something that you can easily get online. Let's talk about ingredient number 3 right now. One of my favorites, and you guys have heard me talk about this ingredient before. It's known as vinpocetine. There are many, many companies out there that are scared to sell vinpocetine simply because about 5 years ago, the FDA put vinpocetine on a possible drug list. They haven't made it a drug. It's not a drug. It's a dietary supplement ingredient in the United States, but they put it on what they call their watch list. And in my opinion, the watch list just means that something is very effective, and so the FDA wants it in the hands of doctors for the profit, not dietary supplement companies, because there is no safety concerns for vinpocetine at all. If you see any safety concerns about it, it's fake news, as Donald Trump would say. It's internet scam. It's pharmaceutical companies trying to scare you not to buy this ingredient. Because I'm going to read a clinical study on vinpocetine. This was, by the way, a safety study. In 1986, Dr. Jay Werner conducted a clinical study on the safety and efficacy of vinpocetine and began by injecting 40 milligrams daily into stroke patients. Not only did he see tremendous results in recovery, but 0.5% of his patients began to suffer from an increase in blood pressure. Again, 0.5%. A clinical dose for vinpocetine is 10 milligrams, but most dietary supplement companies use 2 to 5 milligrams. So I'm going to translate this study for you a bit. And remember, he injected 40 milligrams intravenously into stroke patients and 0.5%. Okay, that means one person out of every 200 people. One person out of every 200 people at 40 milligrams experienced an increase in blood pressure. Now, is that fatal? No. Is it harmful? Not really. You increase your blood pressure just when you get stressed, by the way. But that was 4 times the dose of the average clinical dose. And for me, I only take 1 milligram a day. So that's 40 times what I would have to take every day to even show a slight elevation in my blood pressure. And for me, that might actually be beneficial because I have hereditarily low blood pressure. But either way, that's it. That was the only side effect reported at 4 times the clinical dose and 40 times the typical dietary supplement dose. So totally safe there. Anyway, vinpocetine has been known to increase blood flow to the brain. So think about that. If you took vinpocetine combined with alpha GPC and phosphatidylserine, it would actually increase the nutrient delivery plus oxygen delivery to your brain. Think about how good that would make you feel. I mean, it's just crazy to think how beneficial vinpocetine can be for people, and yet many companies are scared to sell it because it's on the FDA watch list. So, lastly, let's talk about ingredient number 4 because we're running low on time. I want to talk about Huperzine A. Huperzine, Huperzine A. Huperzine A is found in a club moss that the scientific name is Huperzia serrata, but it's a moss that's found pretty much only in China. The Chinese traditional medicine used Huperzine A. Well, they didn't use Huperzine A; they hadn't extracted it then. They used, excuse me, this Huperzia serrata, or this Chinese club moss, in herbal teas for the elderly. Going back some 600 some odd years, we have documented evidence of use of this tea in elderly patients who were showing cognitive decline. It wasn't until about 1978, though, that a Chinese physician discovered the active ingredient, so he called it Huperzine A. There's actually a Huperzine B, which is toxic for you, but Huperzine A is quite beneficial. It also is a cognitive blood flow enhancer. And again, it was the Chinese Academy of Medical Sciences in the 1980s that was able to show that Huperzine A actually increases acetylcholine production by your own body. So we talked about alpha GPC, and it's a form of choline, a form of acetylcholine. So taking that can support your body's levels of the beneficial choline, which is what your brain feeds off of. But Huperzine A showed in clinical studies that it increases your body's own natural production. So think about that. Huperzine A could be a great supplement to prevent the decline of choline, which is a major cause of cognitive decline as you age. So I would strongly suggest that from about age 42 to 45 years old and older, you start supplementing Huperzine A at 1 to 2 milligrams daily. Now, I guess that depends on the potency. If you've got like 100% potency, don't do that. Most Huperzine A's come in a 1% potency. So 1 milligram would be, again, about 1 microgram or 10 micrograms, of Huperzine A. You only need minute microgram doses of this. So I guess I would say if you find a supplement, I'm going to recommend one later so you don't have to think about it. But if you do shop for it online, look at the potency of it first. If it's a 1% potent, then it's natural sources. But if it's like 100% potent, it's probably synthetic. It's not always a bad thing, but you have to be careful of your dosing when it's synthetic, because then I would treat it like a drug. You could overdose, and believe me, overdosing on Huperzine A is not pleasant. I've actually experienced it before, and it was bad. It almost sent me to the hospital. My wife's an EMT, and that's the only reason I didn't go to the hospital, is I knew she could care for me. So don't overdose on Huperzine A. And by the way, anyway, let me read a couple of studies that it was used for. Huperzine A has been used for depression. It's been used for schizophrenia. It's been used for Alzheimer's and a myriad different types of cognitive disorders. So, and I put a little note here in red. Do not confuse Huperzine A sold as dietary supplements versus Huperzine A sold as a prescription drug. I think that's what I was talking about, synthetic versus natural. The synthetic Huperzine A is called Cellogyne. It is a prescription. it's highly potent and you need a doctor's recommendation to take it. But if you use a natural source of huperzine A, it's usually 1% potent. It's known as Chinese club moss or natural huperzine A, 1%, things like that. Now, let's get to, I'm going to wrap this up by letting you know that all 4 of these ingredients, plus a few others like choline and some others, can be found in the product I formulated for LifeWise known as Clarity. Clarity is one of these cool oral dissolving strips that you simply open up like this. You place it on the top of your tongue and it will automatically stick to the roof of your mouth like this. Now it's on the roof of my mouth, so I'm going to have a little bit of lisp while I talk here for a minute. But that's how easy it is for me to take all 4 of those ingredients that I just talked about. And this product can only be found in that combination of alpha GPC, vinpocetine, huperzine A, and phosphatidylserine, as well as choline and 20 milligrams of caffeine in here, can only be found at LifeWise. It's sold exclusively by LifeWise. LifeWise is, if you're new, it's a very unique company that utilizes these buccal absorption strips, or these oral mucosa absorbing strips, to deliver highly effective nutrients from your mouth to your brain instantly. They have like a sleep strip called Dream. They've got an immune strip with a patented peptide known as GMI. Anyway, if you're not familiar with LifeWise and you want to try Clarity and get that brain food, then contact the person who sent you this video or reach out to me in the DM if you're new here or whatnot. But this is my morning routine. I just took one tonight because I wanted to show you how it works. Hopefully I'll be able to shut my mind off when it's time for bed. But I take it every morning. I love Clarity. I love how I feel when I'm on it. And for me at 55 years old, it's my brain food and kind of my insurance policy that my brain will be well nourished, and hopefully I won't be getting Alzheimer's or dementia as I age. So thank you for spending the time with me tonight in the lab. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you taking the time to spend with me. Have a good evening. Bye.